Welcome back to episode 2, friends. I'm Michael Levine, and we've been talking to the great Lawrence Grobel, one of the important writers, one of the important interviewers of our age. So now, how do you get to Playboy?
What I do is, after doing a number of different interviews for Long Island, I did Warren Beatty, Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, Ray Bradbury, Linus Pauling, Henry Moore. I went to, I did all these people. And what was I kept thinking about was, wouldn't it be interesting if I could go a little deeper? I was getting 2 or 3 hours with them. And I kept thinking, I only needed to write 30 or so questions, to prepare. Yeah. But what if I could have a week with you, a month? I thought about it. It's permission. We go through life meeting people all the time. We don't get too far into their lives. How are you? The weather's great.
It's a cursory.
This Playboy was the only place that was giving me 9,000 word, 12,000 word, 25,000 word interviews. Mine with Streisand was 30,000 words, and so. It was giving you a much more in-depth thing. I had read Allen Ginsberg's interview in Playboy one. I remember saying, wow, that was really, how can I talk to that at that level? I think I can, but I don't know until I do it.
But you can't do it at 3,500 words. You have to do it. Okay.
So
how do you get to Playboy?
So this is my thought. I said, the minute I thought I wanted to do it for Playboy, it was the only one that let me do it. How do I get into Playboy?
Correct.
There's only 12 issues a year. They've already got their people, their interviewers. They got 3, 4, 5 interviewers. They're out there doing it. Well, how am I going to break that? So I think about it. And I said, I call up Newsday, my editor. I said, hey, how about interviewing Hugh Hefner? Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I said, great. Now I'm going to interview
Hugh Hefner.
And once I'm going to do Hefner, I also figure I got to do a really good job. I'm not going to do a puff piece. I'm going to show him I can do an in-depth interview with him. And maybe that will. So I do that, and I went to see him. He said he's going to give me an hour. I spent 7 hours with him that day, and I went back the next day. So I spent another couple hours. He took me up into his bedroom. He showed me his circular bed. The woolly monkey grabbed me by the ankle. I mean, I had adventures there. but in the end, the interview was solid. And that year, every year, Hefner would give, in Century City, had the Playboy Club, and they had, I don't know how many people get there, but I was told 1,000, but I don't know how many can actually fit into that place. The advertisers would come once a year for a lunch. Every year, Hefner spoke at the lunch. This year, the article I did with him, I get a call from the publicist, Don Rogers, and he says to me, Larry, says, Hefner is not going to appear at the luncheon this year. He said, instead, he asked us to print 1,000 copies of the interview you did with him, and he's handing that out as his statement for who he is. I said, really? That's amazing. He says, would you like to go to it? I said, well, he says, Arthur Kretschmer will be there. He's the editorial director of Playboy. I said, I'll be there. Thank you very much. I go to this thing, and sure enough, there's all these people, blah, 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 and I'm sitting in a little booth, and I remember, but I brought with me a portfolio of all the articles I had been doing with Lucille Ball and all these people, and picture this, I had it all laid out, but I don't know how to get to Kretschmer. Don Rogers, this publicist, was nice enough to go over to Kretschmer and says, I think you might want to meet Larry Grobel. He's the one who did the interview with Hef. Oh yeah, I'll meet him. He comes over, he sits down. I said, Mr. Kretschmer, I said, this is what I do. And I'm showing him the, just like this. I said, this is what I do. I said, how can I do it for Playboy? I said, I know I can, I mean, this is a shot in the dark. So he says to me, why don't you call Barry Golson in Chicago? He's the one who's in charge of the Playboy interview. I said, thank you, but that's all I needed. I call up, as soon as I got back, left this lunch and I called Chicago. Barry Golson, they said, who's calling? I said, Arthur Kretschmer told me to call, right? That's what I said. And so, of course, he's thinking, that's his boss. So he takes it. I said, Kretschmer thinks I should be doing interviews for you. So he says to me, well, who are you working on? I said, well, I'm working on this. I had 40 people I was trying to get to, and I'm naming everybody. And he's listening. And I said, and Barbra Streisand. And he said, wait. He says, you're trying to get to Barbra Streisand? I said, yes. Well, if you get to Streisand, we're interested. That was the only one. Okay. I said, okay. That's all I needed to hear.
Biggest star in the world.
She was at that time. I don't know. I say she was bigger than Beyonce, but I don't know.
Bigger.
But you have Taylor
Bigger.
Swift. Streisand was enormous.
Bigger.
And she was the queen in a way. You know, I mean, so she was, to get to Streisand, I'd been trying for Newsday for a year. I couldn't get to hear her.
And she didn't do interviews.
She didn't do interviews. But now I call up the same publicist, Lee Salters, that I've been trying to get to all this time. And I said, listen,
He was a famous publicist.
Famous publicist like Michael Levine today. And so I said, you know, Playboy just said they're interested in Playboy. I said to him, if she talks to me, I can get the interview into Playboy, which is it goes 19 issues. I think 19 countries right now are publishing that. It's 7 million in the United States. Also, a section of it could go into Newsday's LA, our magazine, which is syndicated. That goes to 350 newspapers around the country. I said, she only needs to talk to me to reach the entire world, basically. That was my pitch. We'll get back to you, right? Well, it took months and months.
You kept calling?
I called them once a month, yeah. What happened is, New York Magazine published an article by Frank Pearson, who was directing A Star Is Born. He was a writer. He wrote Dog Day Afternoon, so he was directing it, and he had such a problem with Barbra, I guess, that he did it. And Barbra at that time was married to John, not married, but with John Peters, who was a hairdresser,
former
character,
hairdresser,
right? And then he became the head of a studio. So he wrote an article, and the title was, on the front of the magazine, My Battles with John and Barbra. And inside, he writes something about Jason, about her son. So I forgot what it was, but that just pissed her off. She just, you know.
She had with Elliot Gould.
Elliot Gould had a son with Barbra, yes, Jason. So she was so angry by this that she wanted revenge. And she said, I'll do the Playboy interview. That's the biggest audience I can reach. I'm going to attack this guy and say my piece, because you can't believe what you read. That was anger. So it was revenge.
So that was what motivated her.
I get a call from her people saying, she was making A Star Is Born at the time, and they said, can you come to the Todd A.O. studios to meet with Barbra? I said, is this business or pleasure? You know, I mean, I don't know, guys, should I bring a tape recorder? Just come, boom. That was one of those orders, huh? Okay, where is the Todd A.O.? I had to find it. So I go, and I'm sitting there waiting like in a receptionist's office, and I'm waiting there for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and out comes Barbra in front. But there's a little entourage of 5 or 6 people behind her, and they're all like, and she comes right up to me, and she says, why does the press hate me? It's not, hello, Barbra, nice to meet you, I'm Larry, right? It wasn't that. It was, why does the press hate me? And at that moment, Michael, I knew who she was. Yeah. My sister.
She was your sister.
The Jewish American
ballsy
princess.
girl.
Yeah, she was like, no, she was my sister squared. Okay,
yeah,
I mean,
but on steroids.
Yeah, but I said, oh, but I understood it. I grew up with it. Yeah. So I just said, you want to know why? And I start listing off the reasons that I was pissed off. You know, when you make people wait, you can't get to you. You this, that, whatever it was. Well, while I'm doing this, I hear a gasp. Not from one person, but from 6 people behind her.
They can't believe it.
Nobody talks to her like this. And she looked at me, and then she said, all right, come with me. And we go into the thing, and we sit down. There are 2 chairs, big plush red leather chairs in the studio. We're going to watch A Star Is Born. She's going to fiddle with the music, you know. She's thinking, but she was so we're sitting there, and I'm going, oh God, let me like this movie. Let me like this movie. You know, I'm interested. And up it comes, and you know, and at some point she says stop the thing because she wants to make the sound a little more drums here. I heard her do things that I couldn't hear, but she did. She was pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay, so we watched it, and when the thing is finished, I'm thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And she turns to me, she goes, well, that was all you said. And I just said, you're going to make a lot of money. It was the right thing to say. Yeah. She said, okay. So now with then John Peters comes. He doesn't know I'm there. He doesn't know anything about the fact that she has to see me or whatever. So he comes down the aisle and he sees her talking to a guy. You don't know who the guy is. What's going on? What's going on? Like this, you know? And Barbra turns and says, this is Larry Grobel from Playboy. And he just immediately changed to a different character, said, okay, and he starts to back away. And then Barbara says, okay, if you want to do this, call my publicist, call Lee, and we'll arrange a time. And I said, no. I said, Barbara, I've been calling him every month, twice a month, 3 times. I said, I don't want to call him anymore. If you want to talk, give me your phone number, and I'll call you.
Wow.
She looked at me and really thought about it.
Wow.
And then she went over to a desk. There's an 8x11 pad, yellow pad. She writes her B and the number 274, whatever it was. And she rips that little corner off, and she hands me this little corner of paper, which I still have.
You do?
I can show it to
Oh.
you. Yeah, so she hands me this little corner of paper. And I later, as I talked to her, she explains that anything she touches, anything she signs, anything, people sell it, So, that's why anytime she hired someone to work for her, she told me that she always, whatever the price was, she reduced it by 30% and then said, this is what I'll pay you. Of course, everybody who was dealt with her knew she probably did that, so they went 60%. But anyway, this little note, I started to call her. We made arrangements to meet. And the first time I meet her, the first day I go into her house on Holman Hills, and I'm handed. She hands me. She comes down the steps and she hands me this paper. She said, "Just sign this and we'll get going." I look at it, and it's a lawyer's letter, and it says, "Dear Barbara." Then I looked at the next page, and it says my name. So in other words, this is my letter to her. And what its letter says is, she'll own the interview, she'll own the tape, she has the right to change anything she wants, and she can kill it at the end, whatever. And I'm going to sign this, right? I said, I can't sign this. What do you mean you can't sign it? I said, no, I can't. This you're taking away, you're cutting off my balls here. I said, I'm not a secretary, I'm a writer. She says, everybody signs it. I said, that's why you don't do many interviews. Anyway, it wasn't calm like this. It was anger. It was like, I'm not signing, you're going to sign it. It was, and we sat there in these two chairs. It was amazing. It's like I hadn't even started and I'm arguing
And
with
you're
her.
under 30.
Yeah, I'm under 30. So she finally goes, okay. She agrees, puts the paper away. And then we sit down, and just about to sit down, and the phone rings. And it's her lawyer. Did he sign? She says, no.
Who's the lawyer?
I didn't know who the lawyer was, because this is a 3-person story here. The lawyer calls. Did he sign? No. And and he says, well, he should. Well, I said, it's okay. She hangs up. Seconds later, Marty Ehrlichman.
It's the manager.
The manager. Could have been John Peters next. John Peters, did he sign? No. Boom. Third one, Marty Ehrlichman.
Another tough
manager.
guy.
Yeah. And he says, did he sign? And Barbara by this time is annoyed, right? So she said, here, why don't you talk to him? And she hands the phone to me.
You're talking to Marty Ehrlichman?
I'm not yet, because it's still in her hand. Yeah. And out of the phone comes, I don't want to fucking talk to him. She had handed me the phone, and I heard this. I never said a word. I said, you don't want to talk to me? I gave it back to Barbara. Barbara says, I'll talk to you later. Boom, hangs up. And that's it. We start. We sit by the fireplace. We're sitting on the floor. She asked me for a pen for some reason. I don't know. So I lent her my pen. But then I need my pen to, for my notes. So I said, Barbara, give me my pen back. So she gives me the pen, and she holds it. So now I'm holding her finger for a second, and I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here, right? Yeah. What game is she playing with me? Yeah. And I'm being careful because I know she's testing me in a lot of different ways here. So anyway, we start, and within a half hour, I'd say, the talk got sexual, about like and she said, and I'm thinking, I have prepared hundreds and hundreds of questions, none about sex. And yet here we are right at the beginning talking about something that was intimate, and the tape recorder's going, and I'm realizing that what is happening is she's made a commitment. Because if we never talked again, if she said, I don't want to talk, I had something. So she sort of gave me something in a certain way, and it was like, that's how I read it. 6, 7 months of this went on. I went to see Barbara 2, 3 times a week for 6 or 7 months.
Wow.
There were times when she called, she wanted out. When John Peters,
I'm not doing this anymore.
John Peters called, wants to meet me. Says, can I talk to you? She had gone to Japan for a while, and then she came back, and then and for some reason we had some things I did that annoyed her. You know, obviously I'm always annoying her about her mother, about this, about whatever we talked about. She'd call me at 2 a.m. John would call me and yell at me. I mean, it was a crazy kind of time. I've written about all this. You know, I'm working on this in I keep a journal since all this time. Anyway, so this is what happened.
And then this becomes the first Playboy interview that then leads to 40 years. Name some of the...
Not only was it the first Playboy interview, right. I brought this here because this is a rare copy. This is the first time Barbra Streisand, the first time anybody, a famous person was on the cover of Playboy. This was the interview on the cover. No one's ever done that before.
Yep.
Since that time, I've had 6 others, but that was the first.
But tell me about, now, this is a 40-year journey.
This leads to, this led...
Yeah. Give me the names of
what
some
happened after this and the Fonz was Dolly Parton.
Right.
Dolly and I got along terrific.
Right.
I still talk to Dolly. I just talked to her for half an hour on the phone.
Okay.
And this one is with Dolly Parton. And this followed. This was in 1978.
She has a bunny.
Yeah, the bunny suit, right? And Dolly was just so much fun. You know, she was a delight, and she, you know, and it wasn't
For
fighting.
viewers to fully understand, there is no magazine today
Right.
that has the cultural impact. This magazine was read by on the newsstand by everyone.
Right. Barbara called it the Bible.
It was.
Right.
And so there is no reference point to viewers today. It would be like.
Yeah, it's
It would
true.
be like Vanity Fair times 1,000.
Yeah.
Friends, I feel like episode 1 and 2 have been a opera that is going to end very climactically in episode 3. So please don't miss it. If you enjoyed these episodes, please like it. Please share it on all your social media. It's very important that the life lessons that are being translated here be shared and explored.